The Mark Thompson Show.
Now, welcome a guy who, as I say, is so kind to spend some time with us. He's the great Spencer Christian, weather forecaster from Good Morning America and ABC7, Bay Area institution now. So many mountains that he's climbed and put the big, what do you put at the top of a mountain after you climb it? A big...
like a steak, I don't know.
The steak, perfect. That's exactly what it was, the steak. All right, Spencer, this is rough. We've seen flooding. We've seen a continuation, I guess, of the same kind of weather scenario that produced the flooding last week. It's, as I say, it seems unrelenting. Fill us in, please.
That's exactly the wording I used last night on the air, Mark. This series of storms, this atmospheric river has been relentless. So now we've had our latest strong storm, a level 3 on that storm impact scale that we use, ABC7. It looks like it's going to be followed by a storm tonight and early tomorrow morning that's not much lower in strength, a level 2, which will only compound the flooding threat and the mudsliding and all the other impacts that come along with these storms. Numerous trees down. People are still being evacuated, as you know. You talked about flooding in Sonoma County. I forget which town you mentioned, but on the Russian River at Guerneville, which is a location of great concern right now because of the population around that area. The river is supposed to reach flood stage, I believe, sometime between 2 a.m. and 7 a.m. tomorrow. And at the moment, it looks like it's not going to rise much above flood stage. So minor flooding is likely there, but we're not expecting major flooding there. And a lot more rain will come with the storm coming in overnight tonight and tomorrow morning. Maybe another 1.5 to 2.25 inches on top of the 1 to 3 inches that this morning's storm dumped.
Wow, I as I look at the pictures that have that we're seeing now, I guess this is the Russian River. Was that the Russian River we were just seeing, guys?
Yeah, that was the Russian River.
Yeah.
I have video also of SoCal Creek, which reached flood stage, I guess, this morning. That was somebody's backyard. So
yeah. The residents have been evacuated, of course, and they know that they live in a floodplain, but that doesn't make the evacuation, the anxiety any easier. We saw the damage to Capitola. Santa Cruz is inundated and has had and sustained real damage. And there's continued anxiety for the reasons that you note, Spencer, that there is just more and more. And yeah, it was that level 5 storm, unprecedented apparently, as you were saying last week, that caused all the initial damage. I mean, devastating damage. But now these lesser storms, if you want to think of it that way, they fall on areas that have already been so devastated by the prior storm.
Exactly. And these lesser storms, and they are a little bit, weaker in strength, are still significant storms. It would be different if a level 5 was followed several days later by a little level 1, another level 1. But this was a level 3, and tomorrow will be a level 2. But if there's any encouraging news at all, it is that later in the week, not much later, in fact, either Wednesday and Thursday, or Thursday and Friday, we're supposed to just get some light shower activity up in the North Bay, just a little, trailing end of a frontal system sweeping through there. The rest of the Bay Area will probably get no measurable rain from those two systems. So there'll be about a 2-day break when we can begin to recover, to some extent. But it looks like Saturday, a fairly significant storm will be coming in. We haven't given it a number, a rating yet, like a 2 or a 3. But even after that 2-day break, we have more rain coming at the end of the week, over the weekend.
And we should just mention the Central Valley. I mean, Sacramento area and on down, they are getting pounded too. We talk about the Bay Area just because, that's where we have a lot of, we also have a lot of people watching in the Sacramento area and in the foothill region. It's rough going, man. I mean, they're getting every bit the slamming that we're getting on the coast.
Yeah. And we're getting all of the threatening and hazardous elements in one package with these storms, not just the heavy rainfall, but the powerful wind gusts, up to 60 miles per hour, blowing over trees and causing power outages. And of course, as you mentioned, with the saturated soil, even small amounts of rain on top of that, will keep the flood threat going. I think today's flood advisory. I shouldn't say today's. The current flood advisory extends through tomorrow afternoon for the entire Bay Area, not just for isolated areas.
How are we along the coast today? Because I have a picture. This is Aptos.
Yeah.
But I don't know, and I know a few days ago, the storms really pounded Capitola, shut down Zelda's, a popular restaurant,
Yeah.
broke apart the Capitola Wharf. I'm wondering how we're doing with waves and the storm surge along the coast.
It probably will be the National Weather Service will probably issue a hazardous surf or rough surf advisory today. I know we had one over the weekend that expired. I believe it was Saturday. The wave heights have been up to between 25 and 30 feet high at the Bay Area beaches, which is very, very high. Normally, when we say elevated wave heights, we're talking 12 to 15 feet. These were 25 to 30 feet. They were crashing on shore and causing beach erosion and localized flooding. I would imagine with the wind that came with this storm, the waves have been whipped up again, but I haven't seen a high surf advisory yet. I would expect one to be issued, though.
There's a relationship. This is Spencer just mentioned it, and I don't know. I just throw this in there because not a lot of people are aware of it. But the relationship between waves and wind, that's direct, right? You understand the reason waves exist is because of wind. So the greater the wind, the greater the waves. And as Spencer's saying, you get wind like this, and you just have waves that are immense, and that's what we are looking at. The reservoir situation is improving. It is not anything on the. This isn't a drought buster, believe it or not. But to the extent that, most of us are just kind of hunkering down and not too worried about that yet. But you do keep an eye on the overall situation, and we will need a lot of this better in sort of longer stretches between storms to get out of the drought.
Yeah, we will. In fact, we had a couple of drought maps we used last week on the air. One showed the various levels of drought across the state before the recent rains, and then the various levels after the recent rains. The only major region of the state that moved up to a better level of drought was the San Joaquin Valley, the southern part of the Central Valley. It had been in. No, which one is more extreme? Extreme or severe? Whichever one is worse. It had been in that worse category. I guess that's severe. And then it improved to extreme flooding.
There is, yeah.
Did I say flooding?
The drought map reminds me of the COVID color coding. Where we were. Remember the early days of COVID? Well, we're in purple.
Yeah.
Is that like is purple bad or is purple better than yellow? Yeah. Yellow seems like it would be worse than purple. You know what I mean? You do that whole thing. But there is, I think the severity, severe is the worst, and then extreme is,
right.
I think, I
think you're right. So now the San Joaquin Valley has improved from the severe level of drought to the extreme level of drought. Yeah. But the rest of the state is still in, we're all still in a significant drought.
Yeah, it's and more to the immediate, and then I'll let you go. As you say, it's just going to continue this week. And by the way, I'll just say it: you thought they would get the Niners game in without rain, and it did happen that way. That's right. So props to you, sir. All right, Spencer, we'll probably put up the bat beam again to speak with you. I appreciate the information.
I love you. Thank you.
Listen, if you need me tomorrow, I'm here because it's going to be another day of weather to talk about.
We're going to hold you to that. I think we're going to need to check in. So,
before we let you go, I have a question for you. Do you feel like we're wimps in California?
Yeah.
Do you feel like, we get, I'm not making light of these storms because this has been something. I live in the North Bay and it's thunder and lightning at night and things we don't usually see. But do you feel like this is normal weather for other parts of the country, but when it happens in California, we just kind of go, oh my God.
Yeah.
So I'm from California, so to me, it's a big deal. But my husband grew up in Michigan, and to him, it's like, it's raining.
Yeah. Well, I understand. Yes, you're right. We are kind of wimps, weather wimps in California. I grew up in Virginia, and we used to get hurricanes and severe thunderstorms and wind blowing down trees. And I lived in New York in New Jersey for many years, and we got blizzards. So I'm happy that none of that happens here. But
Right.
but these rains, these recent storms are sort of out of the ordinary, though. So I'll give them that. You know, we're not total wimps. We're just not used to this.
I mean, it's true that when it rains at all, we slow down. There are all sorts of actions. That's where we show our wimpiness.
Yeah,
This life-threatening weather. There is not a way that you can go, oh well, those wimps in California. It's like saying after a quake, a huge quake. Huh.
right.
Take a little quake. I mean, come on. This is we're talking about serious weather. So I don't think that, but I think it's true. Both things can be true. We are wimpy. A little drizzle does send us into like major anxiety for the weekend. But this is a storm and a series of storm that is the real thing. So regardless, love you, Spencer. Talk soon, Spencer Christian. Everybody.
See you guys tomorrow. Okay.
Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.